What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-Viewpoint edition of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast. It's going to be time for us to talk about NXT TakeOver in Your House, which is coming up this weekend. We're going to do the usual things here. We're going to run down the card as it currently is, talk about some speculation on potential matches that might end up being the case, that they're added into there. I don't know. The matches that we do know, what are our predictions for that, any other kind of preview stuff that we normally do here. Who are we? Well, I'm your host as always, Tony Mango, and joining me as always are Robert D. Felice.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to In Your House, where we're saving the world from aliens.
And Murder Hornets, and plenty of other things. And the thing
And
that I just
many
dropped.
other things.
Also is Callum Wiggins. What are you saving us from?
I don't know.
America, clearly, is the only foreign.
Fixed rate mortgages. Fixed rate mortgages. I'll save you from that.
From
I was gonna say,
mesothelioma.
I was just saying, it's going reviewing In Your House from my new house.
Yeah.
Hey, see what I did there? People don't know that I moved, but I did. Haha.
Little does anybody else know that what Callum is talking about is he won the house from the original In Your House, and he's just finally moving into there.
Yeah, it took them like 25 years to get the paperwork all through, but
it just kept being rebooked the way that Bailey and Sasha Banks is. Just slowly dragging its ass and being stretched.
I know,
but more importantly, this means that we're neighbors, Cal.
I know, and I came into America, took one look, and decided to turn back around again.
Yeah, I don't blame you the way that things are going these days. Obviously, there are lots of things going on in the world right now that we are not going to address on this because it's not the proper venue for it. But yeah, not even going to touch some of the things with a 20-foot pole. Some things are self-explanatory, and some things don't need to be explained, and some things are just like people are. It's 2020, man. It's just that's what it is. But I'm excited that we're getting In Your House. Like, that's
if you're trying to me too. Like that was the one blip of good news this month. We got In Your House. Yeah, I loved the old In Your House stuff. Go back and listen to our announce table, the first one, and I'm excited for this. Even if it's only for the name and aesthetic.
Yeah, I'm hoping that they have that house design and they just make the set look like that a little bit. Tommaso Ciampa apparently was teasing the idea that it might be the case, so that'd be kind of cool. But at the very least, the idea that they're doing that is kind of fun, and it's a good little nostalgia to remind me of better times. Obviously, the way that we are going to do this is we're going to talk about our opinions, but we want to know if I can get words out. We want to know what your opinions are as well. So go ahead and drop a comment below on the different platforms that you can. Obviously, if you're on the platforms that don't have a comment section, then you can't do that there. So if you are on Spotify or Stitcher or iTunes or Google or whatever it might be, just hop on over to the YouTube channel, and when you're over there, just leave that comment on the video itself. That way we know what you're kind of referring to. If it's just on like some other random video, you go back to like Payback 2018 or something like that, and you go like, I think that Karrion Kross is going to win. I'm going to be like, wait, what? Down the line. But while you're over there, hit the like button on the video because that helps out quite a bit with the algorithm and boosting the ability for other people to be able to see this video. And then there's also the whole subscribe button, which if you haven't done that already, click on that and ring that little notification bell while you're at that too, because then you'll be aware of when we get things posted up on this channel, when we go live, if we do go live. Like, for instance, when we do the Q3 mailbag, which is going to pop up in July or so. So just keep all that in mind. Keep doing the same kind of stuff that you would do for any other kind of YouTube channels or podcasts or stuff out there. But yeah, tell us your predictions, tell us your preview stuff, tell us your thoughts on what we talk about here. And with that being said, let's just start talking about this stuff. Let's talk about the idea that this is a match that's not happening on the card, but I think that it should have been, but it's happening later on tonight. We're currently recording this around 4 p.m., so NXT hasn't happened yet, so we don't know the answer for this, but the interim Cruiserweight Championship Tournament final is happening tonight. It's going to be El Hijo del Fantasma against Drake Maverick. Very surprised that it's not on the pay-per-view, but then again, I guess they're just trying to pop a rating or something. Who do you want to win? Who do you think's going to win?
I think if it's want to win, it's Drake Maverick, just because it means that it's likely he's been re-signed and he's the one who's got the story that's worth investing in them at the moment. I know how good El Hijo del Fantasma is in the ring, but I haven't really seen too much of his character work since being in NXT. He doesn't really have much of a character, unless it turns out that he's the guy behind all of these masked luchador attacks that they don't really seem to be referencing too much, except for the fact that they're actually happening on TV. I think it's likely that they'll have, if they've re-signed Drake. Actually, I think either way, El Hijo del Fantasma is probably going to win, but I think they probably have re-signed Drake Maverick at this point.
I'm gonna say that Phantasma wins, and I think he is the name behind all the masked attacks, and that's what cost Drake Maverick the match tonight. And Drake has not re-signed. I don't say that as a fact. I say that as that's what I think. I hope I'm wrong.
I kind of echo a similar statement. I don't think that they've re-signed him, but I'm really hoping that they have, and I'm hoping that he wins too, because not only does that make more sense as far as just like the proper story and everything like that, and just because I want them to re-sign him, but it also, I think, better sets up Jordan Devlin, because I do think that Phantasma is going to be the guy behind all the abductions, and if that's the case, then he's a heel. Just definitively a heel. I mean, he's getting people to abduct other people and keep them wherever they're keeping them for months, it seems at this point. So, if you have a heel like that as interim champion, and you have a heel like Jordan Devlin, who would want to come in and challenge the interim champion, saying that he never lost the title and all that stuff, I think it's better off if you have a babyface. So, Maverick, easily a better babyface than Phantasma in that scenario, if that's the case. They might not want him to be the one behind the abductions. Which, if they do that, that's kind of weird that they're alluding to it like that. But if they didn't sign Maverick, then I guess they sort of have to go with Phantasma one way or another. And I'm just sort of hoping that it all works out for Maverick, because I would rather him even beat Jordan Devlin at that point. Like, I want him to be re-signed. I want him to be the champion. I want him to have a good career with like all these positive things towards Drake Maverick, and not holding out a lot of hope that that's going to work out. I kind of think that we're going to get the whole masked people come in, they screw Drake Maverick. Maverick didn't re-sign. He loses, but he loses as a means to like look good on his way out. And then Phantasma's just a heel, and then they sort of treat the whole heel versus heel thing as, we'll figure it out. That kind of thing. I don't like it when WWE does that. Do you guys think it's better off that they are doing this on the TV rather than the pay-per-view?
No. They should be doing this at the pay-per-view. It's especially because regardless of where you stand and what show you watch on Wednesday night, Drake Maverick is a story that everybody's getting behind. Put it on Sunday when there's no other distraction with AEW and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely should go on the Wednesday night because more people are going to watch it. So if it's a really important match and people are getting behind it, put it on your TV show because that's where it matters.
I think it depends a little bit on what they plan on doing for me. If it's just going to be Maverick loses, it could be a TV show thing. But if Maverick wins, and it's kind of like, let's give him a little bit of a boost or something like that, I think it means more if he wins it on a TakeOver. So I guess we'll kind of see.
No. Well, again, I know it boils down to all this talk about like the TV versus the pay-per-view side of things, but pay-per-view people who are watching NXT TV are going to watch the pay-per-view regardless of what's on. So put it on TV, and then hopefully some people that maybe don't watch NXT all the time see it and think, oh, that's like a cool story if Drake Maverick wins, or oh, I really wanted Drake Maverick to win and he lost, but like I want to like get behind him and see what they do next. Put it on the TV show. It's not like this in your house card isn't, I don't say stacked, but like it isn't, like it's pretty full up on good matches anyway. I think there's a good chance that this match would get buried underneath a lot of other stuff if that was the case. Whereas when it's put onto the NXT show as one of like the big draws of this coming episode, it's a bigger deal than if it would be like, I don't know, the third match in your house and be reasonably forgotten about.
That's true. And there's really, I mean, they have a precedent of like 5 matches. So which match do you bump off? You could do that with Balor and Priest, for instance. But then
Balor and Priest, yeah.
They're bigger. They are bigger stars in the grand scheme of things. So it's I could see that argument too.
One of them is.
Yeah, Callum is just speaking for me right now. I'm thinking he's saying it.
I mean, you can't judge Damian Priest's height about being.
He's
bigger
he's bigger in height and stance.
I can be salty about that. Why not? So let's talk about the card itself. I mean, that's one of the matches. Finn Balor against Damian Priest. This is coming about because they had spent a long time setting up this idea of Finn Balor versus Walter. And then, poof, pandemic happens. You can't travel between different countries, so can't do that. You could have Balor against Martel and Balor against Eichner for all the many times that you want, but it's not the same thing. And we don't know when Walter can pop up in the United States or when Balor can go over to the UK. So they're at a situation where they needed to pivot. And the way that they decided to pivot was to have Damian Priest attack Finn Balor and say that the reason why is because he understands that Balor's a big name, and if he takes him out, that his name gets a boost of credibility in that process, and he takes out another one of the competition. Kind of makes sense to me. It could be better, could be worse. I'm not all that against it. I actually kind of think that this match might be pretty good. I got a feeling that maybe Priest and Balor might have some good chemistry together. I've overall liked what Priest has been doing recently. And it's just kind of a filler match. Like, I'm not giving it a whole lot of weight to it. Like, if it sucks, okay. If it's great, that's awesome. If it's just okay, it's just okay. So I'm not going into this with like extremely high expectations, but I think it'll be pretty decent. I think that Finn Balor wins. I mean, I think it's kind of obvious that that's the case.
So and stop me if I've said this before on prior podcasts, I'm very disconnected with the NXT brand right now. Like, I feel that the no fans shows have hurt them the most in terms of their vibe. And also because I now have a job where I'm covering AEW, I don't always get to go back and watch NXT immediately. So I'm kind of disconnected to the product as a whole, but I haven't really liked what I've seen in the ring from Balor. Like, just the Johnny Gargano match alone from the previous TakeOver, it felt like a lot of expectations and not a lot of delivery. So I'm going into this one with low expectations, hoping that they supersede that. And I think Balor wins just because he's the bigger star.
Yeah, I can't say I'm in any way really infused about this match whatsoever. Balor's very good, but he's ever since the thing with Walter fell off, he's just been lost due to the fact that he should have already feuded with Walter, and he should have either had that match for the championship or that feud be continuing going forward. So he's been reshuffled, and so he doesn't really have much direction right now. And I don't see anything in Damian Priest that's really, he's good. I just don't think that, like, okay, he's just somebody you fill in like the middle of a regular NXT show, and then he goes away for a week or two, and then comes back and has another little match on a show. It's like he's in the same boat as someone like a Killian Dane right now, to me, of just somebody who, okay, oh, he's show up every now, oh, that's good, maybe they'll do something with him, and then, oh, okay, there he goes. And there's nothing really that's connecting me about his character. I don't think this feud is particularly interesting. I think this match should be Candice LeRae against Mia Yim instead.
Yep.
Which we're getting tonight on NXT.
Yeah. I think that would make more sense. Or it should be Balor against Cameron Grimes, which seems like even though they've already had that match, I think it would be more interesting to have the rematch on there. You could have had Balor against Damian Priest like a couple of weeks ago and then built up the Grimes one, because I think Grimes has used the fact that he's beating Finn Balor in like the few like promos I've seen of him, just talking about like how important it is to him. That made it feel like it was a big win for him. And I think they should have that rematch at some point. They probably will just have it on an NXT show. So I don't really see what Damian Priest is bringing to the table right now.
I think he'll have a great main roster career. I'll just go ahead and say that. I think almost like Baron Corbin in a way. where he didn't do much on the NXT brand, but they've gotten a lot of utilization from him on the main roster. I think Priest is in that boat. I just don't see it for him here. That being said, should the main event go a certain way, maybe Priest can be utilized as a good first challenger. So it's all up in the air.
It's the match that has the least amount of consequences that come out of it. That's for sure. Because there's titles on the line in the other matches. There's, well, I guess one of them really doesn't have a whole lot, but it has somebody's kind of momentum at the very least on the line. The other one that's non-title at the very least is Tommaso Ciampa against Karrion Kross, and even though that doesn't have a title on the line, that's going to be our first real test and taste of what Karrion Kross has to offer, because he's only wrestled a couple matches and they've been squashes so far. So working with Champa means we get to see him, I'm assuming at the very least, in more than a squash match. We're going to get, how does he fare when he's not dominating somebody? What's it like when Ciampa's playing babyface against Kross and Ciampa's in control? What happens when Kross has Scarlett on the outside and she might be getting involved in something like that? Or, it's interesting because I haven't seen anything of Kross other than his NXT work, which really isn't all that much in the grand scheme of things. So I'm excited for this. I think that could be great, depending on how great Karrion Kross is. I've liked what he's done so far, so that's a step in the right direction. And I think ultimately this has to go to Kross, just because Ciampa's the established star. If he loses, that pushes Kross far more in an upward momentum direction than anything that Ciampa could get out of beating him.
I think it's a given that Kross defeats Ciampa, but I'm really hoping for the match of the night in this particular bout, where it's a different style than anything you'll see on the card, because both of these guys just beat the shit out of each other. I'm really looking forward to a match where both of these guys just beat the shit out of each other. And Scarlett and Killer Kross have an amazing entrance. They have an amazing look about them. And obviously, Kross is the future of the brand. But Ciampa needs something here. Maybe he's one of those names that will be called up in the supposed slew of names that will be called up. Who knows?
I don't think that's happening.
Well, we'll see. He recently said that, when he had made the initial comment about not wanting to work the main roster, he was fresh off of injury, so he was still trepidatious about things. I'm not saying that he will be. I don't think he will be, but he could be, because he's one of the few names that has been in NXT long enough to where it's like you can go elsewhere. But yeah, I think Kross wins here and starts a push towards his own title run, even if it's a year from now.
Yeah, like you guys say, I think it's pretty obvious that Karrion Kross is going to win this one. The only circumstances I can see of him not winning is that Ciampa gets like a roll up or something and Kross beats the shit out of him afterwards, and that just sets up a natural rematch down the road. But it's probably most likely that Kross will win. Just want to see more from him, because essentially what we've seen from him so far is the entrance, which is great, a Saito suplex, and a chokehold. And I don't like the fact that he does a chokehold, because I think too many wrestlers in WWE at the moment do a chokehold as a finisher. Like, NXT's starting to become kind of a land of the submission specialists. Like, you've got Matt Riddle in there, and you've got Timothy. Well, not Matt Riddle now. He'll be up in SmackDown soon. But Timothy Thatcher, and you've had Shayna Baszler in the past, and Asuka, and loads of other people that use chokehold submissions. Like, I feel like his finisher should be something more devastating and just like something that has impact to it because of his size and his build. Just feel like just him laying on the mat choking someone out doesn't. I know he has like some sort of MMA background or like mixed martial arts fighting style, but it doesn't really come across in his character or his entrance. He comes across as a killer, which I guess would be his name beforehand. Just having a just having a chokehold as finisher doesn't really do that for me. That's kind of that's what Dexter Loomis's finisher is. That because he's like this silent, creepy assassin type person. Karrion Kross should just kill you, and you know that you killed the person in front of you. So yeah, I think Kross should win, and yeah, just hope that it's a good long match, which is very, very physical. In terms of like, because I imagine a lot of the other ones will be a bit more like technical and storytelling based. Like Rob says, I just want to see these two beat the shit out of each other.
Yeah, along the same lines, because they added the best of Ciampa and Gargano to the network, and I'm really I'm glad we got to the part where wrestling is so much wrestling, but I kind of want to watch some more old school, just brawling style main event match type stuff. So I'm hoping I get that here.
You know what move I could see Kross doing, not as a finisher, but as like a signature? The heart punch.
What's it? Huh.
I've never
now,
liked it as a finisher.
Who was the last person to use it?
Crush's last one I can think of.
Did they not try it with Strowman?
Not that I can remember, but they might have. Might have been one of those like 3-week Raw type things or something back in the day.
I think the heart punch, people will argue, is too hokey.
Yeah, that's why you can't be a finisher.
But I think it's a good move.
I think if like in the middle of this match with Champa, if he were to do that, they'd be like, oh, like Mauro Ranallo could sell it. He'd be like, oh my god, he hit him like right in this one spot, and that's like supposed to lead to like heart
stop the rhythm
palpitations and stuff. Yeah, like then I'd be like, oh yeah, well, like what a bastard, But not a finisher. It's never been a finisher in my mind. We're all going Kross, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, I'm going to skip over to something that I think that, because I think that the other two matches are going to kind of influence each other a little bit. So I'm going to go over to what I think is not going to be like the next match in the card or something. But the NXT Women's Championship match is on the line. It's a triple threat match. It's Charlotte Flair against Rhea Ripley and Io Shirai. I am 100% saying Flair retains by either pinning or making Shirai tap out, and that this is entirely just to waste time. It's just, let's put Io Shirai in there so she could lose. Ripley doesn't have to lose. Ripley can say she still needs a title shot or whatever. And I think that this is a match that could be really good, but I feel like this is, every single scenario, still a worse setup than if they would have just had Ripley beat Flair at Mania. We've gotten well past the point now where I think it's got to be obvious Charlotte Flair should not have won. She hasn't boosted the ratings for Raw, SmackDown, or NXT. So their idea of like Charlotte Flair being around all over the place, that's going to really help. No, it hasn't. Rhea Ripley doesn't look any better at all. She's lost all of her momentum. If not all, most. Io Shirai's not getting anything out of this because she's just like on the sidelines. It's very much just Ripley and Flair, and she's kind of hanging out. If Ripley beats Flair here, it's not in a proper one-on-one. And really, even in the grand scheme of things, like with her beating her, even if it was a one-on-one, why would you have to lose at Mania to be able to win back? That doesn't give you the same momentum again. You traded it for nothing. If she beats Shirai, then she didn't beat Flair. If Flair beats Shirai, then Ripley it's like, okay, well, we're just wasting time. If Flair beats Ripley, holy shit, does that make Ripley look bad? That just like for no reason. If Shirai beats either of them, then it's like, what's going on with Ripley? I cannot see a good scenario of this having made sense.
I think they just want the women's title to steal the show. And I think that they think that this combination of women will steal the show. On my other podcast, the WrestleZone Daily, Kevin Kellum regularly refers to the NXT Women's Championship as the most sought after women's title in the industry. And I'm at the point where I really think that Charlotte having it has made it anything but that. Like, I would more rather see Rhea Ripley just win it back here, and we call the Charlotte experiment a failure, and Charlotte just moves back to Raw. but I don't think we get that here. I think Flair pins Shirai after Ripley does something, so it's like she just, she sneaks by and Ripley can still chase her, because I still think the payoff is whenever there's people again, Ripley beats Flair. But who knows? And I'd be more than okay with them just ending it here.
I think I've said multiple times over that Charlotte is a great wrestler, and she's one of the best in the entire roster. But she is so hideously overexposed. And it was already bad enough, and now it's even worse with the fact that she holds the NXT Women's title, which seems to give her entitlement to appear on every single show that they ever run. It's like, I know they're doing this stupid rule where certain people can appear multiple times, but Charlotte's appeared on at least 2 or 3 episodes of SmackDown since WrestleMania. She's appeared on virtually every episode of Raw. She's appeared on virtually every episode of NXT. Like, she is everywhere. And her promos just, they drone on and they're repetitive and they always say the same thing, and that she's the queen, she's the measuring stick, she's the best, and blah, 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 blah. And they haven't done anything to really build any momentum for either Io Shirai or Rhea Ripley, because every time they've gone and fought somebody, like in the last couple of weeks, they've either lost or their matches have gone to no contest because Charlotte Flair's done something.
Mm-hmm.
So there was the women's title match beforehand where Charlotte Flair got herself intentionally disqualified against Io Shirai. And then there was the match between Rhea Ripley and Io Shirai that Charlotte Flair interrupted. And then there was last week's tag team match where Charlotte Flair pinned Io Shirai. Instead of, using Chelsea Green, the other person in the odd person in the match, to try and build momentum, having her team win and then having her separate from Robert Stone. I mean, what the fuck is going on with this promotion now? It's like, I know what Rob's been saying about like just feeling disconnected due to the fact that he's watching, due to lack of fans, and also due to the fact that he's watching AEW. I'm disconnected from NXT because the booking fucking sucks at the moment.
It's been worse since they moved to USA, correct?
I didn't think it was bad at first, but it's a mess right now.
Yeah, booking is just all over the place right now, and we'll talk about more of that when we get to the main event segment. But it just seems ridiculous the way that they're presenting the two challenges to this. It feels like Raw and SmackDown now. In that, wow, these two people who seemingly haven't won a match in 3 or 4 weeks are fighting for the women's championship.
Against
and the woman
somebody
who's fighting
who is very clearly above them in their own hierarchy.
Yeah, and it's basically like a week or 2 ago, Charlotte Flair was fighting both the SmackDown Women's Champion and competing for a number 1 contendership for the Raw Women's Championship. So basically, Charlotte Flair saying, "Oh, I like having this NXT thing, but I want other stuff. It's like this is okay, but I kind of want other titles as well." It's just so. Yeah, I don't get how she's definitely not elevating the NXT Women's Championship. This feud isn't really doing much of anything. The saving grace is this match will almost certainly be very good, just because the 3 people involved are very good. But sometimes that's just not enough to just say, okay, this is going to be a very good match. But like Tony says, there's not really a satisfying outcome to this. The most satisfying is that the belt goes off Charlotte, goes on to either Rhea Ripley or Io Shirai, and we just move on from there and have a feud between the actual women on NXT and move Charlotte Flair out of the picture.
Having this belt on Charlotte makes the NXT Women's title feel like an Intercontinental title. And then the fact that Rhea Ripley was built up so much just to be like the arrogant one in the feud to challenge Charlotte and get her ass beaten and then cry afterward and then disappear afterward. It's like, that's making it seem like, okay, you were a mid-carder who stepped up to a level that you couldn't be on, and now Flair is like doing NXT a favor by being in that presence once in a while, and it's like, I guess I'll deal with the rest of the things on the side. And I don't think that that's their goal, is to be like, let's appeal to people like the 3 of us and the people that are listening right now to this podcast to go like, "Ooh, damn it, Charlotte, you're making it seem like NXT's a thing and we're going to have to fight back and win NXT's credibility again." It's like, no, you don't ruin the brand and the division to get a heel over when the heel is somebody who's the most high up woman that's ever existed entirely in WWE, that you also have on Raw and SmackDown, kind of playing babyface on SmackDown, oddly enough. Like, I don't know what they're going for here, but whatever it is, it's failing miserably on all fronts for everybody. Like, Flair doesn't come out of this looking any better. Rhea Ripley doesn't look any better at all. That just ruined her momentum. And Shirai's just there on the sidelines. And Chelsea Green, I don't know what happened with that whole thing.
So it's weird. I want to get through the match predictions, but I think we all going Charlotte?
Oh yeah. Charlotte beats Io Shirai.
I have Charlotte beating Io too. Callum, Charlotte beating Io?
Yeah, almost certainly.
Chelsea Green, and moreover Robert Stone. I really hope that they don't just release him because they decided that they want to call Chelsea up. I feel like enough outlets have reported that I feel comfortable saying this. They want to apparently call Chelsea up. Stone, I don't want them to release Stone because I like that NXT was doing managers, but they pretty much told Bivens to fuck off. Now it seems like they have nothing for Stone again. It's like, what are they doing with NXT? NXT for a long time was infallible. What are they doing?
What is going on with Bivens and Rinku and Sorov? Like, Indu's share popped up. They made a big impact. They said that they were going to fight for the tag titles. They beat Everrise, I think, one night. And then they just ceased to exist again.
That's wrestling for you, my friend.
Like, I get it with something like Arturo Huas, where they were like, hey, like, here's a little vignette, he's coming soon. And then the pandemic hits and they're like, all right, maybe they just won't bother debuting him. Well, re-debuting him. He had been plenty of matches before. But, like, why bring in Rinku and Sarov and Malcolm Bivens and be like, mid-pandemic, let's introduce these characters and then hope that you forget about them and everything. Like,
I guess the idea with that was that they were hoping that Pete Dunne could come back quickly so they could have a feud with, because they had him attack Matt Riddle, and so it'd be Matt Riddle and Pete Dunne when he eventually came back against those two feuding over the titles. But then they realised that he was going to be away for a lot longer and decided to completely pivot it and get onto another more polished team like Imperium.
It's just kind of weird to me that they don't have them beating other teams in the meantime. Like, once every 2-3 weeks, have Indus Share beat somebody. You know, beat Leon Ruff. Apparently, everybody beats Leon Ruff.
Maybe one of them's injured because you know that they never feature tag teams if one of them is injured.
It's true.
Yeah, that could be.
I mean, it feels a lot like what we assume happens a lot with Raw and SmackDown, in that there doesn't really seem to be a long-term plan. They're just playing it by ear at the moment. And then they're making decisions on the fly, whereas, especially because they used to book from TakeOver to TakeOver, and they used to do recordings in like batches, so things couldn't change in terms of their plan. Now that they're have to book week to week pretty much because they're on live TV and all the stuff that's happening in terms of the coronavirus and all that other stuff. They've just gone into disarray, and it's like it feels like it doesn't feel like Vince McMahon's booking because it's not that bad, but it feels like somebody's at the helm, but they're just changing course every couple of minutes or so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's not the way to book things. I hope that they learn that.
And since we're on the subject of tag teams, I do hope that the Brit Bruisers versus Imperium gets added to this card, because that would far and away steal the show for me.
I think that's just going to end up happening on like NXT next week.
Well, then fuck. Like
it does feel like a takeover. Like, it doesn't feel like a takeover without a tag team match on it.
Yeah, that's true.
Because the tag team matches are usually like one of, if not the show stealer of the entire card, and to see a card without it on just feels a little bit empty.
And then they usually involve the Undisputed Era, who will likely not be on this card outside of Adam, which is a little hollow for me.
Well, let's switch over to that, because I'm going to talk about these two in the one shot kind of thing, bounce around a little bit. There's the NXT North American titles on the line, Keith Lee against Johnny Gargano, and the NXT Championship is on the line. Velveteen Dream's getting his last chance against Adam Cole, and here's the setup. I'm just gonna toss it all out there. Keith Lee and Mia Yim are feuding with Candice LeRae and Johnny Gargano. That's its own separate thing. It's not at all tied into the Adam Cole thing, but I'm bringing these together for a reason. And the Adam Cole thing is Adam Cole had suggested to William Regal that if Velveteen Dream got another shot at the championship, if he loses, then he can't get any other more chances at the NXT championship as long as Adam Cole is holding the title. So William Regal agreed to that and suggested that they have some kind of special environment that they put this in. A couple of little elements. At least as far as officially, they haven't announced what that is yet because it's 4:00 on Wednesday, so they haven't aired the episode. But if you want to know the spoiler kind of things, many different outlets have reported this already. It's going to be a bunch of cars surrounding them in a parking lot, like in the ring there. I don't understand that at all. I want to talk about that in a minute. I feel like this is one of those scenarios where one match influences the other one. If Velveteen Dream wins the title, I feel like there's a good chance Keith Lee can retain or Johnny Gargano can win the title, because then they would want to sort of balance out like having a heel and a babyface champion. But I feel like in some ways, if Adam Cole retains the title, Keith Lee has to lose the title because he has to be the next guy in line to beat Adam Cole. That's kind of where I'm putting this all out there. I'm tossing a lot of things out there that we're going to backtrack on. I understand that. But let's go with this question, I guess. The idea of Cole versus Dream in that type of environment, how are you feeling about this, guys? Because I think that this is not at all fitting for either of them.
So I like Iron Circle matches. I've only seen a handful. But like Ken Shamrock and Steve Blackman did one on a pay-per-view in '99, and I saw one on a Nitro with Regal and Finlay. And here's the thing. Regal and Finlay are great. Shamrock and Blackman are great. They ain't got shit in common with Dream and Adam Cole. It's a different fighting style. It's a different everything. I don't know why they settled on this. This feud doesn't feel that serious, that they need to fight in an environment with a bunch of cars. It just feels like we need to have a cinematic style match. I don't know. What do we do? How about this? Okay, cool.
Wouldn't that
I don't like it.
Almost better fit Kross and Ciampa?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I think the reason behind it is the thing that Regal said in that Zoom call that he was having with Adam Cole last week, is that he wants to put them in an environment where the spotlight is always on them. So it'll essentially be a ring surrounded by cars with the headlights all turned on, and that's going to be their quote-unquote spotlight.
All right, I'll give you... You know what? That explanation alone does more to make me at least understand, as opposed to the idea that reading, in a story that was broken by Fightful, by the way, that these two are doing this match, because it just doesn't seem right. Like, I had mentioned, do something called Dream Theater. Like, if you're gonna do cinematic style stuff, it's gotta fit the feud or the guys, but that does help a little bit. The spotlight's on them because the headlights are all on as they're beating the crap out of each other.
I mean, it would have been funny, like, if we go back to, like, 99, 2000 WCW, it probably would have been a match where there's a spotlight on top of, like, a structure or something, and the first one to climb up and stand in the spotlight is the winner of the match.
Spotlight on a pole match.
Book it, bro. That was good.
If,
but,
go ahead.
I was going to say that I don't know what the car thing will have to. I assume it's just going to be they're going to come in jeans and t-shirts, whatever, and it's going to be like some sort of dressed up street fight with the different cinematic shots. I don't really look at it as like, okay, that's really, really exciting or glamorous or interesting. But I guess we'll see what they do with it. These cinematic matches are very, very hit and miss at this point. So
they're not supposed to get out of the circle of cars, right?
well, I assume it's going to be a ring
so.
within the center of the cars. Like I assume the cars will just be surrounding a standard ring.
Right. Like lumberjacks, kind of.
No, I don't want to see cars as lumberjacks. Like, if you're gonna fight, have them fight in like just the circle of cars. That is their ring for the match.
Or get the cast of cars to be the lumberjacks around the ring.
Just Owen Wilson's ringside.
Yeah.
So. Wow. I really don't get this idea. Like, they could have done a whole lot of things. Like Rob mentioned, like Dream Theater. You know, it's the whole Velveteen Dream experience. Have the Dreamatorium, like whatever the hell. Like, make it the sort of thing where it's like Cole says, "Fine, I'll put the title on the line, but you can't get another shot if you lose." And then it's like, "Fine, but it's going to be in Velveteen Dream's environment," and that way it's like, you know, one advantage and another advantage, that kind of thing. And they could have had like, I don't know, like a velvet ring mat and weird lights and stuff, and filmed it in Full Sail and decorated around it, or something. You know, like they could have done anything. It seems that would make more sense than these guys. They're not fighting in backlots, and there's no car element to this. There's no. It doesn't even seem like it would lend itself to being a cinematic match. It seems like it would be more like you're filming just with like a slightly different camera angle or something. I don't understand it at all, and it really sapped a lot of my energy for this whole potential match, because I'm like, well, these two are great. What the hell's going to be going on with this? And if Velveteen Dream wins, it's going to seem weird. And if Cole wins, it's going to seem like, why did he win in that kind of environment and stuff too? Like, I'm also kind of wondering, if the idea was brought up, the idea of whether or not the Undisputed Era is going to be a part of this. I think we could see them, but I also think we could see Dexter Lumis. And I think that if they pop out of cars, it's going to look really stupid.
Like, but I think Lumis is creepy enough that he could probably pop out of the trunk of a car.
Like, I could see like Roderick Strong coming out of some stupid truck, and like Bobby Fish popping out of something like that too. But like, if Dexter Lumis just like, I don't know, casually pops out of a sedan or something, that's gonna be like, come on. You got to at least figure out a way, if that does happen, which it might not. You got to figure out a way to do it where it fits his character. Like, he pops up from underneath one of the cars, and it's like a funky looking car or something. I don't know. But like, that to me is just going to be a mess. It could be great. I don't know. But I do feel like the winner of that match kind of dictates the NXT North American title match. You guys think that way, or do you think it's completely unrelated?
I think there are more challengers for Dream if Dream wins, that it wouldn't necessarily dictate the North American title match. But Adam Cole does have that Finn Balor match that he hasn't done, so there is always that too. So they can get away with not having to tie this into Keith Lee.
Didn't they have a match on NXT?
Yeah, they had it on like a match for the title towards the end of 2019.
Did they have a match for the belt, really?
Yeah, which Cole won. Yeah,
he beat him.
Yep. It was there was interference, but Cole did pin Finn Balor.
Well, then fuck what I said. I really think you might have to go Dream on this one, just because there's nothing left for Cole to do.
I'm definitely not going to say that these things aren't interconnected in any way. Like, I could see, like Tony says, if Keith Lee was to lose, he could be a very good fitting challenger if you keep the title on Adam Cole. I just don't think that there's a great deal predicated on, like, if one thing happens, then the other thing is bound to happen. I don't think it's that kind of relationship, but I feel like there is more that you can do if certain things go in certain directions. I just don't think it's set in stone that way.
Like, to me, Karrion Kross seems like he could be built up to be either the one who beats the babyface who beats Velveteen, Adam Cole, or he beats Keith Lee if Keith Lee retains the title. I could see Kross winning either of those titles at some point down the line. And the fact that he's feuding with Ciampa already makes me kind of go, maybe he's just already going to skip the North American situation. And maybe somebody like a Cameron Grimes and I mean, Damian Priest has already had his shots. But at the same time, too, Keith Lee has already fought a lot of people for that North American title. And Johnny Gargano is like a perpetual big deal now that he's a heel. That's another character to kind of throw into the mix there. Like, if Gargano were to win the North American title, I think there's more options than if Keith Lee retains. And then if Velveteen Dream wins the championship, I don't know who really feuds with him necessarily. So I kind of feel like, I don't know, like I'm currently leaning a little bit more towards the idea that Keith Lee drops the title and Adam Cole retains the title, and Keith Lee is who they want to be the next NXT champion. But I'm flip-flopping a lot because I'm also seeing a scenario where Velveteen Dream wins, and that's their whole idea is he can never win the championship with Cole, and he finally wins it, and that kind of thing. Because there are rumors that maybe the Undisputed Era is coming up to the main roster, or that Adam Cole doesn't re-sign his contract. That's coming up soon, too.
And listen, I get that why there would be these rumors, and yes, Britt Baker is his girlfriend and he's close with the Bucks. But you've spent well over a year as Triple H and Shawn Michaels' hand-picked pet project. I don't think you're leaving the WWE system. I could be wrong, but that's just my take on it. Like, Adam Cole is having a run that a lot of people would dream of, and I just don't see you leaving the kind of thing like that. I do think they will go up to the main roster because there's just nothing left for them to do.
I don't know what Adam Cole's situation is, so I can't really vouch for either way if he was going to leave or stick around. I think it would be, again, like Rob says, be unlikely, but I don't think it's out of the question. But I think it makes most sense to have Gargano win because he's fresh off a heel turn. He's been building himself up quite nicely. I think that he could do a run with a championship for a while. You could, at the same time, start building up Candice LeRae to maybe be the ones to take the women's title off Charlotte Flair or Rhea Ripley eventually, whichever one you want to eventually have the title on, and have them as like the new power couple, which seems odd because they're essentially two heel power couples trying to rise up the ranks at the same time with Gargano and LeRae and Karrion, Kross and Scarlett. But keep freeing up Keith Lee to win the championship from Adam Cole, I feel like that makes the most sense to me. Just because, I don't know if you guys would feel this as well, Velveteen Dream doesn't feel the same as Velveteen Dream before his injury.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
He feels, and maybe it is, I think a lot of it is due to the fact that there is no crowd, and Velveteen Dream was someone who lived for the crowd. It kind of made up for the fact that he's a very good wrestler, but he's not a great top tier like Champa, Gargano, Adam Cole, that type of level. He's like a step below that. And he's still learning, obviously, he's still very young. But he doesn't feel, because he doesn't have that crowd connection to carry him through, it's starting to expose the fact that he isn't as solid in the ring. And he's still trying to shake off ring rust from his injury as well. So it kind of feels like he's been pushed into this world championship scenario before he got back to being his best. And it's starting to hurt him a bit. And also the alliance with Dexter Lumis isn't helping it either because whether you like or you hate Dexter Lumis, there's no way a character like that should be involved in the main event story. To me, it feels like when you throw, I don't want to draw too many comparisons because I know how it can be taken, but it's like when Eugene was involved in like the Triple H, Chris Benoit World Heavyweight Championship matches, that sort of thing. It's like, okay, this character's for a certain audience, a certain type of storyline. So you don't throw them into the main event stuff because that just makes the World Championship match seem like lesser.
Another thing that's weird to me about this whole scenario is Dexter Lumis is very much still a part of it, and Dexter Lumis has been helping Velveteen Dream. If they have him turn on Velveteen Dream, sure, you can get a Velveteen Dream versus Dexter Lumis feud out of it, but it seems just sort of like, why bother? And why bother in this sort of environment as well? But what happens with Adam Cole? I'm looking at the roster right now, and for instance, he's already fought, even though they're heels. Ciampa, Ciampa's not a heel, but he's, Johnny Gargano is crossed off the list. Tommaso Ciampa crossed off the list. Dominic Dijakovic, he's already fought him to a certain extent, plus he's supposedly going up to Raw. Matt Riddle already fought him. He's on SmackDown. Finn Balor, he's a heel. They already fought him. I guess they could just retread it, but at the same time, that seems like a direction that they aren't at the slightest bit heading towards. Bronson Reed, not up that level yet. Cameron Grimes, not at that level, and he's a heel. Damian Priest, he's a heel. Danny Burch, not at that level. Phantasma, not at that level. Might be the Cruiserweight champion, so that's an odd kind of thing. Boa, not a chance. James Drake, Zach Gibson, heels, tag team division, NXT UK, can't travel anyway. Joaquin Wilde, abducted. There's nobody left. Like, is it going to be like Kushida jumps up? Like, there's nobody but Keith Lee, unless you turn somebody like Roderick Strong turns babyface.
So
and I can't see that happening in this match either.
I'm of the opinion that the winner of this match is champion, obviously, and the loser just is gone from NXT, because if you were to do something like Dream goes on to feud with Lumis and Cole is still champion, like really you have nothing left to do. And if you're going to establish that, Dream has had his like second or third go around with championship opportunities, just move him up. Like there's no shame at this point. At this point, it's not even moving up. It's basically moving over. These shows feel more similar than they ever have before. Just, put Dream on Raw or whatever, wherever you're going to put him. But I don't know. This is a toss-up for me, but I think at the end of the day, Dream should win this so that Adam Cole and the Undisputed Era can move, I would assume, over to SmackDown and at least feud with guys like Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles.
I might switch my opinion again, like I've been flip-flopping. But at least as far as 4:30 in the afternoon on Wednesday, I'm going to go Adam Cole drops the title. Keith Lee retains the title. But I'm very much Johnny Gargano winning. It's like I kind of feel like almost this is going to be one of those scenarios where once they do whatever the next step is, we're going to go, oh, okay, this is obvious. Like if Adam Cole switches over to AEW, we're like, oh, okay, no wonder why he lost. And then no wonder why this happened. And then no wonder that, like all that other kind of things. So it's sort of like no matter what, without knowing that information, it's kind of up in the air. So I'm going to, you know what? No, fine. I'm going to go Velveteen Dream wins the title. Johnny Gargano wins the title too.
I enjoyed your thought process.
All over the place.
Yeah. I'm going to agree with you. Dream wins the title, Gargano wins the title.
I'll bring some sanity in here.
Well, I'm just going to go Gargano winning and Cole retaining.
They'll figure out what to do later?
I just think Lee will just win the title the next go around.
Oh, okay.
Just Lee.
And he just hold it. He will just hold it for a month until Lee wins. And I assume that, and then I'll just have the assumption that Velveteen Dream is coming up.
Where do you guys think he'd be better off, Raw or SmackDown?
Raw.
Does it matter at this point?
I just think long run, Raw is more of a entertainment show. Raw.
I mean, yeah, but by the time that fans start getting back in, we don't know how long that's going to be. So, and they'll probably have done a draft by that point as well. So
yeah, it doesn't matter. 205 Live.
I think he'll just end up on Raw probably, just because like if Riddle's gone to SmackDown, and some other people are being earmarked for SmackDown, then Dream can just go to Raw. It's not really going to change much.
Well, Dijakovic is supposedly earmarked for Raw. So that's
Raw. Is NXT actually going to have anybody left at the end of this?
No, they're not, and more on that later, I'm sure.
To be honest, that might actually be for the benefit. Like, a short term, it will hurt, but like they'll actually have to be forced to just put new stars on, because maybe some part of the reason why NXT felt a little stale or different is just because it's been the same people on top for a good 2 years at this point.
Maybe that's where big old Babatunde gets this big push.
He's pretty big.
He is big.
Yeah, a whole lot of people aren't. So I don't know. We haven't seen Dio Madden in a while. Maybe he comes back.
Oh, he's in the crowd. He's in the crowd at Raw.
When the hell's the last
maybe
time
they just do that as
like
this. Well, they just have as the big NXT show where they've called up everybody else on the roster, and so the people that are in the crowd just slowly start to enter the ring together, and then they're just like, this is the new NXT, and then they're replacing the crowd by other people from the performance center.
I think they're kind of out of people at this point. They fired so many people. Like, I'm looking at the list of the performance center recruits right now, and I know a lot of these names at this point just because they've been popping up recently. Like, I mean, I know Babatunde from the Evolve thing. Cal Bloom, he's wrestled on SmackDown. Chase Parker, Matt Martell, they're Everrise. They've wrestled here and there. Daniel Vidot's been in the crowd. He's wrestled. Denzel Dejonette's wrestled more on Raw than he has on NXT, which is odd enough. I still don't know EJ Nduka. I don't know how to pronounce that. Still don't know about Jeet Rama. He's been a part of NXT's Performance Center type of thing for 4 years now, it seems. I don't know Amari Palmer. I don't know Sidney Bateman. I don't know Zachariah Smith or Anthony Francis. But Tahuti Miles, I didn't know that name until a few weeks ago. Now I'm like, all right, this guy's getting a push on 205 Live out of all the things. So I guess Tahuti Miles is one of the next big guys or something. Not sure why, but that's sort of it. That's all the people that are listed in their Performance Center things. They're not going on a hiring spree. They might not have people to really fill in the blank.
Could be just a few months' time we have Kona Reeves as the world champion.
It could be.
That is not the finest.
Maybe they bring back more of the people that they haven't been putting the spotlight on, like Killian Dane. Maybe they try to do something with him. Maybe by that point, Fandango is going to be back from his injury. I don't know. But, I got a feeling that after this event, we're going to see some moves that are going to make a lot more sense in retrospect. If we figure out what's happening with Cole, what's happening with Dream, any of the kind of title swappings that might happen, any kind of roster trades, whatever it might be, maybe that'll be what clears it all up. But I guess we're not going to find out until at least this Sunday when the pay-per-view happens. So by all means, of course, if you want to know what happens on that, go ahead and check out the live coverage that's going to be happening on smarkmma.com, and we will be doing our post show afterward as well. I'm naturally going to have my highlights and low points up on Bleacher Report. I'm going to have my reactions up on eWrestling News. We're going to talk about this, going forward, and however ways that we are going to. If there are any changes that happen after NXT tonight, we're going to address those on the hot tags that are happening on Friday night. So that's the next thing you're going to be hearing from us. So just in case they end up saying somebody got injured and now they're going to be replaced with something or whatever, then, we'll do an updated kind of predictions like that. But I think that's it for the card. Nothing, any other kind of opinions you guys want to toss out there?
I just want to say I really hope NXT bounces back, because right now I'm really not feeling it.
Yeah, just hope that this show is good. Takeovers usually deliver, so based on the standard of the people performing in the matches, I don't think by match quality that this is going to be a disappointing show.
95% over and under. Does Todd Pettengill show up?
I've got my fingers crossed.
If he does, if there were a crowd, that would get the pop of the night. I imagine
it really would.
If he comes back and he's grown back his mullet, then that would be the ultimate.
If he doesn't show up, does that instantly mean that this is disappointing because In Your House needs Todd Pettengill?
Well, clearly it's the worst In Your House of all time.
Yeah. I think he'd be recovered if Velveteen Dream has Todd Pettengill on his tights.
I hope so now. Alrighty, everybody. Some more plugs that you should be aware of. If you want us to do more of anything in particular, whether it's more podcasts or more articles or just more, whatever, blah, blah, blah. and you want to make sure that we've got the funds and the time to be able to do that, the best way is to toss your spare change towards our Patreon, patreon.com/smarkoutmoment. The $1 and up ranges, everything helps out quite a bit. $5 is basically ad block forgiveness for the month. $10 gives you access to the Darkcast, which are Patreon exclusive episodes where we just act all silly and just, sort of talk about whatever we want to talk about. Then you've got the mailbag priority, which in a month like this where we're not doing the mailbag, if you want to make sure we do mailbag questions that you ask us, then take advantage of that. And then there's the pick your poison tier, where you can specifically request some kind of a feature that you would like us to do, whether it's like a fan tracks type thing, fan outs table on the Smark Out Moment side of things, or, superstar scores, or you want us to do some kind of fantasy booking, whatever it might be like that. Keep that in mind. And the same thing applies to fanboysanonymous.com, which is the geek culture website for movie reviews, which movies don't seem to be coming out anytime soon. So that's really kind of been a dry spell, but that's also where you can pick my brain about some other things. So, if you want me to write up some more content on that site about different franchises that I'm super fond of, or, the way that I would do a sequel to a certain movie, or the way that these characters from video games should get spinoffs or whatever it might be like that. That's all on fanboysanonymous.com. So check that out. Show some love for that brand. Hit up the Facebook and Twitter. Donate to the Patreon. All that same kind of stuff. And there's also the merchandise shops, TeePublic and Redbubble for both Fanboys Anonymous and Smark Out Moment, as well as a Mango Tees. That's stuff that's not related to either of them. It's just, random side jokes and stuff. So if you want some merchandise, all the different designs, all the different products are all up on those sites. Check out those 6 options there. And if you want to follow me, you can follow me at Tony Mango on Facebook and Twitter. But these guys have places you should follow and things that you should check out as well. So I'm going to pass the baton of plugs. I don't know if that sounded a lot worse than it seemed. Pass the baton of plugs. It sounds awful. Over to these guys for their promotional stuff. Rob?
Well, first of all, I'm not getting electrocuted, so I'm going to slightly stay away from the baton of plugs and just say, this week I don't want to plug anything. Just be good to one another. Callum?
Well, that's good of you. I'm worried that I'm going to tread on the plug of the baton of plugs, so which would be it's like stepping on a Lego, isn't it? Like stepping on a plug.
Oh, yeah.
But I'll just plug the Smark Out Moments. Just check out all the articles on there, the weekly stuff, including my power rankings. Follow me on Twitter at Wigmeister14. And I guess now is as good a time to announce, as we're getting closer to the date, and I don't want to put it off any longer. We are in June now, and this is the month where myself and Rob, and maybe Tony every now and again,
you're pregnant,
are going to be.
I had to just jump on that.
No, Callum is not pregnant.
No, unfortunately not. But that'd be fun if we had like the Smark Out Moment baby. What do we call it?
I don't know, but I'm sure it would win Worst Kid of the Year, since that became like an award for each time.
That'd be rude if I was actually pregnant and I gave this on. You gave them the Worst Kid of the Year.
Jeez, Tony.
I don't know. I'm not a big fan of kids.
But we're having some kind of baby. It's a podcast baby.
There you go.
It's a new it's going to be a new podcast journey. Like, it's not a sequel to 2001: A Wrestling Odyssey, but it's kind of in a similar ballpark. Me and Rob are going to go back to a period where we essentially it's a wrestling period that we're very fond of, because we know how terrible the world has been recently and how uneager sometimes it is to watch current day wrestling. So let's go back to a point in time where we were just avidly watching, just at the height of our fandoms, pretty much. We're going back to the Paul Heyman SmackDown era. Yes. So from June 2002 all the way through until February 2003. So essentially what that means for you, well, I'll explain to more on the first podcast we do, which will be on June 20th. That will be the date that it gets released. At least that's tentatively put down. And so I'll explain that in more detail. But essentially it's going to be a week-by-week podcast where we review every episode of SmackDown that takes place that week, talk a little bit about news and events that are happening at that time, review the shows, And yeah, that'll be a fun little journey that will see us through, hopefully, these continually dark times that 2020 is providing us.
Yeah,
Hell
that's
yeah.
something to look forward to at the very least. And as you know, the rest of the month goes along, we'll be hitting you up with a bunch of different things here and there. We still have some question marks about what some future special features are going to be and stuff. Next week we got Backlash coming up, so we got another pay-per-view set up for that. And then you know, we'll fill in the blanks the way that we end up filling them. But by all means, everybody stay safe. Everybody stay freaking nice to each other. Just promote good things. Be nice to people. Try to make the world a better place. And in the meantime, we'll try to do the same. And we'll see you on Friday with the hot tags, and then on Sunday for the pay-per-view talk. So thank you for listening for this, everybody. Thank you for whatever you're doing that's on the positive spectrum of this world. And we will talk to you when we talk to you. Now, this has been another Smark Out moment, and we're being counted out.